Oh, excited! Hey, everybody! Oh, hey, check it out. 45 degrees, 55 degrees, 90 degrees. Okay, I'm good. I'm all right. Okay, so, good morning, everyone. I just woke up, just 10 minutes ago, okay? So let's just dive right into this. This is an exciting day. We have a brand new One Piece chapter with some crazy information at the end. Kaido has been defeated in a bloody melee. In fact, Kaido, what are you still doing up there? You don't belong on the wall. No one that has lost a fight does not deserve the right to be on this wall. Zoro, you lost to Mihawk. Get off of there. Roger, you can stay. Yeah, you can stay. He lost a battle with disease, ladies and gentlemen, which does not count. Okay? Blackbeard technically got defeated by Magellan, so we can just rip him off there. Usopp can stay. He's good. Shanks, we still don't know anything about him, but he hasn't lost a battle that we know of, so yeah, but a lot of other characters I should probably take off this thing. Anyway, also, there's a brand new Panic at the Disco song. That's unrelated to One Piece, but I was listening to it to get excited while I'm setting up down here. So most of this hype is 70% One Piece hype and 30% Panic at the Disco hype. Let's just dive right into this. One Piece chapter 1051 review titled The Shogun of Wano, Kozuki Momonosuke. Okay, so that video I made 3 days ago talking about how I thought Hiyori was going to be the Shogun, it was an idea. It was an idea. It was a theory. I thought it would work, the fact that Hiyori has been there for 20 years with Denjiro and, actually might have some experience and have been taught how to run a nation and how most of the people of Wano will follow Hiyori or Komurasaki because she's this, famous Oiron and everything. I assumed maybe that would work, but no, it looks like we're just going another direction with it, but it's okay. We'll see where this goes. The cover spread is simplistic, but it's amazeballs, okay? It is the Germa's cover story, the Germa 66's Emotionless Excursion, Chapter 13, simply titled The Germa Escapes, and we just see a shot of Ichiji, Niji, Reiju, Yonji. They're all walking, I guess, out of Whole Cake Chateau. There's just a giant explosion behind them, okay? And they're walking forward just completely just unaware of the giant explosion behind them. They do not care. They're like action movie stars here. It's like any 90s action movie where at the end, the main hero sets the charges, he has the detonator, and he's just like, see you in hell. Boom! And he just walks away really cool, lights the cigarette, and just... Which, by the way, to bring realism into this for a moment, that would either knock you flat on your ass from the shockwaves alone, or it would blow out your eardrums, if not both. But the Germas are super soldiers, so it makes sense that they could actually pull this off, okay? So just cue up the Germa 66 theme song as they're just walking through Big Mom's castle, just lighting fires and just exploding everything they see with Ichiji's power, probably. And they just do not care how badass they are. Okay, so now... continuing where we left off from the last chapter, that's a good place to start because, Denjiro walked out of the smoke and he's like, all right, everybody, calm down. I got a story to tell you, all right? So first and foremost, most of the people of the Flower Capital are still running away because a giant dragon just appeared in the middle of the Flower Capital. And, I understand that, Kaido was an azure dragon, a light blue dragon, and Momonosuke is a pink or a peach-colored dragon. But still, these poor people have been conditioned to fear a dragon god for the last 2 decades. When they see a dragon, I don't think they're really going to be paying attention to what color its scales are, okay? It can be a regular Gyarados, it can be a shiny Gyarados. I don't think they care. They see a dragon, they're going to start running in the opposite direction, right? As opposed to the normal response, which would be to, I don't know, give it chocolate. But no, so they're running away. But some people are like, hey, wait, no, Bill, come back. It's okay. The giant dragon was not actually Kaido. He's like, what are you talking about? It's just it's a giant dragon. It's Kaido! I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's not. It's like something else is going on here. This is really important. This is like the climax of a major arc in a shonen manga. You should probably get back here if you don't want to be left out of this experience. It's like, all right, and so everyone's just like, okay. They start gathering around the area where Momonosuke landed, and the smoke is still, you know, billowing out. It's very, very dramatic. So I was like, wait a second, there were 2 dragons the whole time? And she's like, apparently. Since when? I don't know. So anyway, we have Denjiro and Hiyori standing out of the smoke. And there's still the shadowy figures emerging, like, one at a time to make it even more dramatic. Pause for a moment. I just want to ask something. The way that the events are going to play out in this chapter, it is so theatrical. I feel like the Scabbards and Hiyori and Momonosuke had to have planned this. There's no way this was just perfectly executed flawlessly off the cuff, you know? Like, they had to sit around and be like, okay, Momonosuke, here's what's going to happen, all right? We're gonna land in the flower capital. You turn back into a human. The smoke is gonna appear from your transformation. Try to make the smoke as dramatic as physically possible. And then we're gonna walk out of the smoke one at a time in epic poses. And then we're all going to bow, and then you're gonna give this epic speech. Like, if this is off the cuff, oh my god, the 9 Red Scabbards, you know, Momo should not be the Shogun. They should be an improv team, if nothing else, because it works insanely well. But anyway, yeah. So Denjiro and Hiyori are out first, but then a voice from the smoke begins to, you know, question them and says, hey, you know, you guys have been in Wano for so many years, you know, you've had a lot of time to, like, establish yourselves, and everybody in town recognizes you. Everybody's going to know Komurasaki, the most beautiful Oiron in the entire nation. Everybody's going to recognize Kiyoshiro, the boss of the Yakuza. But, you know, it's been 20 years for us. They might not even recognize us anymore. And then out of the smoke emerges Foxfire Kinemon! Hoo! And he steps out with his epic pose. And he seems okay. A little thing to mention here is that, yes, all of the Scabbards are still injured, but this is a very important moment, okay? This is not just theatrics. This isn't just like an improv play or whatever, okay? This is maybe just as important as, like, the actual battle. Okay, maybe not that important, but this is also very important. To strike it, to make it very apparent to everybody in Wano at the same time that the battle is over, Kaido has been defeated, Orochi has been defeated, and to cement it in the people's hearts who the next Shogun is and what's going to happen moving forward, okay? This is not the kind of thing you can just do half-heartedly. This is not the kind of thing that you could just be like, you know, it's like, oh, it's, yeah, it's all right, everybody. Just go about your daily life. Everything's cool now. No need to work in the factories anymore. You're fine. No, it has to be something like this. So I like to think, even though Kinemon and Okiku and the other Scabbards that fought and are still severely injured, they still feel a lot of pain and they're still bleeding, but they managed to maintain consciousness and to, like, focus, because this is the make it or break it moment to show the people of Wano. It's like you only get one chance to make a first impression kind of deal, and this is their first impression of Wano, okay? So they gotta do this, right? So I imagine Kinemon, he's still bleeding at the waist, like Chopper might have bandaged him up a bit, but he walks out and he's just like, I am Foxfire Kinemon! Oh, my hip! Oh, I almost slid off the top half of my body again. Hold on, let me just... Oh, all right, that's going to be a thing I'm going to have to deal with the rest of my life. Like, Kinemon makes a random, like, hip movement, like he's doing exercises, like yoga in the morning, and then all of a sudden it's just pop, top half of his body just slides off. He's like, ah, crap. All right, hold on. Foxfire Kinemon, you know? And everyone's like, Kinemon, we thought you died. Are we dead? I love that that's the first response of the people of the Flower Capital. It's not that, like, wait a second, maybe Toki's magical time-traveling prophecy was actually real. No, most people try to just side with, like, are we dead? Are we dead? Is this the afterlife? Is there any Orochi here? Please tell me there's not a dead Orochi, a ghost Orochi ruling the afterlife. Ah! So one at a time, each of the Scabbards emerge from the smoke, and there's an equally proportionate shock and awe from the studio audience, basically. Like, Kawamatsu walks out, and he's like, ah, Kawamatsu! And then Raizo walks out. It's like, oh, Raizo! You know, it's like they're all walking out of the smoke and everyone's like, fetch the video transponder snails. We need to send a message to all of Wano. Because remember, even though the Fire Festival is like a big deal and like everybody gathers in the flower capital to celebrate, not every single person in the country was there, you know? I'm sure that they were celebrating in other ways all across the country, you know, like in Ringo, Hakumai, Curry, you know, like in the Bakura town, for example, all the way back in Curry. I'm sure that they could hang out there and drink for the Fire Festival. It's just not in the flower capital. So they set up the transponder Den Mushies, or they're not the Den Mushies, they're like the pond snails or whatever they're called in the version in Wano. And so they get them all set up all in the different regions. We see Raizo walk out. Now look, here's the thing. Assumingly they used Kinemon's clothing ability, which is actually very handy for something like this, because whenever you need dapper threads in a hurry in order to make the country know and like, you know, oh, okay, this is really epic, this is really professional, this is the coronation ceremony essentially of the brand new shogun, you can't go to something like that wearing tattered clothing that you just got done fighting a dragon god with, right? Also, Momonosuke would have no clothing because, you know, he transformed. So using Kinemon's power, they all had like amazing outfits, and they all have like cloaks and like you know, like shirts and stuff over their regular clothing that has the crescent moon symbol on it of the Kozuki clan. I only bring this up because we see a shot of Raizo, and I don't know what it is, but Raizo walking out with like a white shirt with like the Kozuki crest on it, it kind of looks to me like he's wearing ninja pajamas. I don't know why. Am I the only one that thought that? You know, because I'm so used to seeing Raizo in his normal, like, ninja apparel. So he's walking out in this, I'm just like, oh, was that Raizo's pajamas that he was wearing? I don't know. Okiku is there, but she's not, you know, quite ready to stand on her own yet. So Nekomamushi actually has her in his arm, his Catling gun arm, actually. So Okiku's kind of leaning on that. So she's there. Everybody sets up the video feed all over Wano. So Ringo, Hakumai, Kibi, the Curry region. In the Ringo region, little Easter egg, we see Onimaru there. We see the fox wandering over to see what's going on there. I don't think there's anybody super notable. We see Baba Nuki at Udon at the prison. We see the Curry region with Bakura town where this arc pretty much started. It's just crazy. It's been so long, right? It's been 909 is when the Wano arc officially started with the big pullback of like, this is Wano country and the flower capital and Zoro's like seppuku scene and everything like that. That was chapter 909, and so we're at 1051. So I suck at math, but I'm assuming some of you don't. You could go and calculate that for yourself. So anyway, we see Ebisu Town. The people there are like, ah, ha, ha, this sounds like it should be interesting. Ha, ha, ha. All right, so the transmission is being set. Now we cut back to Onigashima very briefly at the live stage where everybody is just kind of like mingling around. Like, what do you do after you just defeated 2 Yonko crews and landed an island? Like, what do you do at that point? The Scabbards had to get going, and they probably told everybody, it's like, hey, we'll be back later, but we have to go to the flower capital. We have to tell the citizens what happened, and more importantly, we have to make sure that Momo becomes the shogun in the most epic way possible. So we got to get going. So they left, and everybody else is just staying there. The Straw Hats are just gathering back together. Luffy and Zoro are still conked out. They're still on the ground. Chopper is tending to them. I'm assuming they will be fine. But now we have a scene with, we have Nami, we have Frankie, we have Robin, Brooke is there, Sanji's there, Jinbei's there, Tom is there as well. And Yamato just basically, because this is like the first time, or like, I don't know if, I think Yamato might have ran into Frankie during the battle, but it was like during a battle. So she didn't really have time to like explain, you know, the situation happening, like, you know, what's going on here. And so now that Luffy's unconscious, Yamato approaches the Straw Hats and tells them like, oh, I am Kaido's son. It's like, Kaido's son? Is like, yes. And also, I'm gonna be journeying with you from now on. It's nice to be part of the crew, everybody! And everybody's like, their responses are different depending on who it is. So we have like Nami and Frankie. Frankie has like a steam of like smoke coming out of his head. It's just like, what's going on here? And then Brooke is there, and of course Sanji are both really happy that Yamato is joining for obvious reasons. And so Sanji's like, I agree with this decision. And Robin's in the background, and she's just like, interesting, you know? And then we have Jinbei off to the side, and Jinbei, you know, he's basically, he has the dad answer. He's just like, well, I mean, I don't really mind. This is my Jinbei voice. You like it? He's like, well, I really don't mind, but it's not official until Luffy says it's official. He's the captain after all, right? So it doesn't matter how much Yamato would say to them. He's like, oh, you don't understand. Luffy, I talked to him earlier. He said he's cool with this. Actually, did Luffy said he was cool with this? Hold on, wait a second. I'm trying to remember. Okay, so when Luffy first met Yamato, it was really chaotic, and they were running around and stuff, and then Yamato took off the mask and revealed, like, I am Yamato, I'm Kaido's son, and, you know, I am, you know, I want to get out of here, I want to follow in Ace's legacy and everything. I know Luffy said, like, oh, don't worry, I'm gonna, like, kick Kaido's ass, and, you know, he also removed the handcuffs, but I don't remember if Luffy ever directly said, like, sure, after this war is over, you can join my crew, or that's fine. I just remember them arguing a lot, honestly. I'm assuming Luffy would not be against it, since, you know, Yamato was a friend of Ace, and Ace made the promise and everything like that, so I don't really see that being an issue. But yeah, it's like what Jinbei says is true, though. They just can't go along with this. They have to wait for Luffy to wake up. And yeah, what's the situation with Luffy here? So we see them, and Luffy is pretty unconscious. You know, Zoro's right next to him there. They're just kind of like, oh, well, what was the deal with that battle, you know? Like, Luffy went into a form that we've never seen before. I imagine it's sort of like a callback to Thriller Bark when Luffy was using Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd together against Moria. Most of the Straw Hats have not seen both of those techniques together like that, you know? When Luffy debuted his Gear 2nd move, it was against Blue and O and Lucci and stuff. I think Frankie was there for a little bit of that fight. But then when Luffy went into Gear 3rd against Lucci, you know, no one else was there to witness it. And then, you know, Usopp showed up at the end. So, you know what I mean? Like, not all of the Straw Hats, by the time Thriller Bark happened and Luffy's using Giganto Jet Shell against Moria, they're like, Luffy, what are you doing to your body? You know, that kind of situation. Very similar to this, where it's like, what did he do? You know, is he going to be okay? Is he going to wake up? And we actually don't get any input from Chopper here. Chopper doesn't walk over and say, it's okay, everybody. Luffy and Zoro are fine. They'll wake up in probably a few days. It'll be okay. We don't get any of that. Now, to be fair, Chopper doesn't seem to be super nervous. He doesn't seem to be like, yo, they're gonna die. It doesn't seem like that. Luffy's hooked up to an IV. We see a blood pack, you know, into him right there. And Zoro's all bandaged up. Miyagi is working on some other, injuries from the battles. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think Luffy's in danger of dying here. But also, it's a very interesting ability that they're gonna have a lot of questions when he really does regain consciousness. I'm wondering how much of this Luffy's even gonna remember. That's the thing. I mean, he'll probably remember going into Gear 5th and stuff, but I wonder if it's gonna be because the state his mind goes in when he's in Gear 5th, and he's just like, I'm having so much fun right now. I wonder if it's gonna be a little hazy for him to try to recall, like, every little detail that occurred. You know, because a lot of it might have just been off the cuff. It might have just been like, I'm gonna turn into a giant now and step on Kaido, you know, like, whatever. He might be like, I think I turned into a giant to defeat Kaido? Did I do that? Did I pick up a lightning bolt? And now the Straw Hats are like, we don't know. What did you do? I feel like I picked up a lightning bolt and threw it at Kaido's face. You know, like, it might be something like that. I don't know. Some of the Beast Pirates try to, like, sneak away while they're talking to Luffy and Yamato and everybody. Yamato turns around, probably observation hockey, and just be like, hey, who said you could leave? And it's like, oh, Master Yamato, sorry, we don't want to be turned into slaves, you know? And so they're trying to leave, and Yamato, as well as Hamlet and the other gifters, are, like, yelling at the men of the Beast Pirates to, like, stay and don't go anywhere. And speaking of that, speaking of being, like, servants or slaves, Usopp actually brings up a very interesting question about Otama's ability, the Kibi Kibi no Mi, and says, hey, yeah, speaking of, what's gonna happen to, all of the gifters that ate the Dango? Are they just gonna stay like that forever, or, you know, what is it? And Otama's like, oh, no, it doesn't last forever. It only lasts until the next moon phase comes back around. So basically a month, okay? So, for example, it's a full moon right now because the minks were able to transform into Sulong, so it's a full moon. So at the next full moon, then the effects of the Dango will wear off. And that makes sense given the fact it's connected to the moon, because the Kibi Kibi no Mi is the ability to control control any animal, right? And so animals are connected to the moon phases in that way. The same thing, like that's where the minks get their like power from and everything like that. So I guess that makes sense there. Like the next cycle will like, you know, wash away the effects of the Kibi no Mi. Tama goes on to say, though, that even though the effects do end after a month, some of the animals choose to stay behind and stay tamed. Others will get pissed off and, like, walk away into the forest, okay? If you've played D&D, it's sort of like the Friends spell, except it lasts a month, where it's like you cast Friends on somebody, like, hey, we're best friends, and then after it wears off, he's just like, what the hell? And they just, like, storm away or whatever. Sort of like that, except some of the animals choose to, like, hey, yeah, I know you manipulated me and everything like that, but hey, you give me food, it's a nice place to stay, and yeah. So for example, the Koma Inu, we actually learn the Koma Inu was traveling around with you know, Tama ever since the Koma Inu was like a puppy. Okay, so probably Otama used the Kibi no Mi on Koma Inu like years ago, and it wore off, but the Koma Inu chose to stay behind as, like, you know, Momo's friend, okay? So think of it as something like that. Now, those are with regular animals, though. As for the gifters, I don't know how that'll go, because they don't just have, like, their animal personalities, they also have, like, human personalities, okay? They are humans that ate, you know, the smile fruits and whatever, and have animal qualities, but they're also humans, so I'm not really sure how they're going to take this after a month ends, you know? Now, when it comes to Speed, Speed is actually very happy, and she hugs Otama, and she's like, you know, I'm fine, you know, being with you. And so Otama is like, oh, okay, that's great, but I don't view you as a pet or anything. I view you as a mother, actually. And Speed is like, oh, and so she's like, it's a super adorable moment where, like, Speed and, like, Otama are like, oh, that's great. Actually, especially since we find out what happened to Otama's biological parents in this chapter. Spoiler alert, they're both dead. But so that's sad, but it makes it better because it's like, you know, Otama got adopted by Speed in this chapter. That's a happy ending. That's nice, right? So I'm assuming that, like, after the effects, because it's not like, it's sort of like brainwashing, but not really, because they still remember everything that happens. So Speed, yes, Otama gave Speed the dango, and then Speed became, like, having to listen to everything Otama says. But Otama, in return, is not cruel, okay? In the hands of somebody very, you know, evil, the Kibi no Mi, you could have, like, an army of animals, and you could, like, enslave them to, like, you know, like, do hard labor and stuff like that, and, like, yeah, tow that cart, you know, and all that stuff. And then by the end of the month, the animals are probably just gonna be like, you know, screw this guy, and then get the hell out of there. But Otama is very kind. So when it came to, like, Speed kind of formed a connection with Otama as, like, a motherly figure. And so even after it wears off, I don't think Speed is just gonna be like, oh, get away from me, I can't believe you did that, and then with your witchcraft or whatever, and then run off. I don't think that's gonna be the situation. Now, some of the other gifters might, but it depends by case by case. Also, I have to bring this up. Could you just do, like, infinity? Could you just be like, okay, you know, let's say 29 days later, it's like right before the full moon's about to come out, can you just take the dango and, like, you know, reset the clock, or how does that work? I'm not really sure. I'm assuming you could not cheat the system like that, and even if you could, I'm assuming Otama would not do that. So if you actually think about it in a weird, messed up way, they basically defeated the power of slavery that Kaido's Beast Pirates, you know, created in Orochi, with the power of slavery. So, you know, I don't think that really goes with the message of One Piece, so I'm glad that Oda included that. Like, no, this isn't going to last forever. They're not, like, mindless servants of, like, yes, Master Otama, you know, like, whatever. It's nothing like that. It's like, that will end at some point. So, yeah, there's that. But some of the gifters are probably going to be pissed off after the month is over and just be like, screw this, I'm out of here, you know, whatever. Yeah, go start a bakery or something. Let's see. So now we cut back. They look up at the video display, and they see what's happening in the Flower Capital. So we cut there, and it's, like, so epic. It's, like, right in front of the castle in the Flower Capital, right in front of that. Like, remember the Flower Capital? It has that giant hill, and then on the hill is the palace. So it's right in front of the main entrance. It's been 20 long years since my father died. It's the voice of Momonosuke now, okay? All of the scabbards are kneeling in a line, like, so parallel. So on each line here, so it's like, you know, Kinemon, Denjiro, Raizo, Kawamatsu, like all lined up like this, and then Momonosuke is kind of walking right down the center. Still surrounded by smoke. Man, this smoke is like, hey, Momonosuke, when you turn back into a human, could you make the smoke last like 15 minutes to maybe even build more and more suspense here? You know, is there somebody in the background playing a shamisen, like really dramatic? That should have been Hiyori in the background playing the shamisen. Anyway, so we see the silhouette of a man walking out of the clouds, and we see covered in like a kimono, like a flowing kimono, but also long flowing mane of hair, okay? Which makes sense because, you know, Shinobu aged up Momonosuke by 20 years. I guess he didn't have time for a haircut, so that makes sense. Anyway, he continues his speech. He says, you know, the freedoms of the Fire Festival that you have all enjoyed will not end with tonight. When the sun rises anew in the new day, you can continue to live your life however you choose. And everyone in the crowd is like, but Orochi, he'll yell at us. You know, it's just like, no more Orochi, no more Kaido. You know, you can drink as much as you please. You know, no longer will water, something basic for living, be limited to the rich. We see a well, and we see in front of the well, we see a sigil of the Kurozumi clan. By the by, that was something that we don't get to see in the forefront of this arc, but yeah, the Kurozumi crest is actually all over the place if you go back and look in the background. It's actually in the very first chapter of Wano, when Zoro was about to commit seppuku at that scene. You could see it in the back on one of the lanterns. It's like the Kurozumi crest, and it's all over the place. It was also when they brought the food treasure ship back at Bakura Town with Speed, like Speed's first introduction. We also see the symbol on that as well. So it's sort of in the background. Oda never really focused on it, but that is the crest of the Kurozumis, right? So anyway, we see the well, we see a mother and a baby crying in the cold, and Momonosuke is just like, you know, the toxic factories that polluted this great land, they will be shut down, slavery is abolished. My god, Momonosuke! Orochi made it pretty damn easy that whatever shogun followed him was going to be a way better shogun, but man, Momonosuke with the policies. He's just walking out and he's just like, you know, free water for everyone, live your life as you are, factories are shut down, no more pollution. You know what? I'm just going to abolish slavery while I'm at it. I'm Momonosuke. You know? I'm just, you know, I'm just like knocking it all out at once. Okay, nice. We see Otama there and she's surprised because, you know, this is Momonosuke who she knew and now he's an adult, so she's a little confused by that, but then she also remembers her parents and her. So we get a little bit of an Otama flashback in this chapter, okay? So we see a situation when Otama was, we don't know how old, but I'm going to say like 3 or 4. I mean, she's really little here. But there's a moment where a bunch of people in the mines like died. And so you see a moment with Otama's parents. We don't see what they look like. They're like behind a window. So Otama is like watching her parents talking, you know, behind like one of those sliding doors. And they're like, you know, 4 people died in the mines today, so we're probably going to have to go next. You know, I guess that's how the system worked, you know, like they didn't have every single person working in Wano, because when the people working in the mines keeled over and died because of how, you know, oppressive everything was and the horrible conditions to work in, they needed to have reserves, right? So yeah, and also you have to make sure that people are around there still having children, so there could be more people to grow up to go work in the mines, right? So you can't have everybody at once. So really messed up system. So not Momonosuke, Otama's parents kind of go up to her and it's just like, hey, Otama, we're really sorry, but we have to go work in the mines now. And so they leave Otama as an orphan, and they end up dying. We see their graves. I was trying to zoom in to see the grave markers and to see if on the grave markers of Otama's parents, it actually said Kurozumi, because that's a popular theory out right now that Otama was a member of the Kurozumi clan because she has purple hair. And so I was kind of looking at the grave markers to see, and I guess if it's a traditional Japanese marker, it would be Kurozumi at the top because their family name, and then would be their first names on the bottom. I can make out some of the hiragana on the bottom, but as for the symbols on the top, which look like they are kanji, they're so far away I can't really make them out. But it could be. It could seriously be like Kurozumi and then their names, and then it's like, oh, Otama was the whole time. It could still be that. I can't read it. Oda, I think, deliberately made it hard to read. But anyway, so her parents died. We see a scene of her crying. We see a scene of like 4-year-old Otama like looking up and just like, Mom, Dad, don't leave. You know, it's the most heartbreaking shit ever, man, okay? Then we cut to her making the casa hats for everybody, and she's like, I know, I'll make casa hats and sell them. That's how I'll get food. And so we see her making the casa hats, and then she's going out in the streets, and she's just like, casa hat, umbrella hat, anybody? And everyone's just walking by on their sludge to work, you know, with the pickaxes over their shoulder and just like, sorry kid, don't have any money. And it's just like, some of them even need the hats too, because they're like, you know, it's raining out or snowing out. They're just using like blocks of wood or whatever to like cover their heads from the snow and the rain and the freezing rain and all that crap. And then Otama's like going back home and she's like, sorry, Koma Inu, I don't have any money. Nobody bought a hat, but it's okay. I'll just make some more. So I'm like, oh my God, this is so sad. Then we cut to a scene with Tekking101. This is when Tekking101 met Otama. Just realized their names rhymed. Didn't realize that until just now. Well, whatever. Better late than never before Wano ends. Anyway, so Tekking101 was like one of the first, if not the only person that actually like, hey, he's like, I will take a casa hat there, young lady. And so Otama's like, oh yes, please, here you go. And so he says, are you an orphan? And she's like, yeah, my parents died. He's like, well, that's sad. she's like, cheer up, kid, Jesus. I was like, no, he's like, well, he thinks back and he's like, well, it's only a few years until the prophecy comes to fruition, right? It's only a couple of years out until the 20 years. And so Tekking101 says to Otama, he says, just, you know, bear with this just a few more years. If you can survive just a few more years, those Oni, those demons, those devils, the Kishin of Wano will be annihilated, will be wiped out by the Kozukis. And Otama's like, Kozukis? Because she's never even heard of the name, probably. And so then we have a flash forward to when Luffy managed to procure the treasure ship at Bakura Town, where he defeated Hold'em, right? And so they had the food, and then Otama was so happy, and she's like, this is the happiest day of my life. This is the best birthday ever. And Luffy said, hey, don't think that this is going to end right here, all right? Don't be happy with just this much. You know, be happy when we finally liberate all of Wano, defeat Kaido, defeat Orochi, and you can have as much food to eat every day for the rest of your life, as much clean water to drink. You know, don't be happy until then, okay? And so this is the moment where Otama realizes what Luffy said finally came into reality. And so Otama, now back in the present, breaks down bawling and just hugs Nami. And she's like, Nami! And Nami's like, yeah, I know. It's okay. It's all gonna be okay now. I'm like, that is a very heartwarming scene. And it's very poetic because, you know, we started this arc with Luffy running across Otama, who was basically just a representation of all the horrible things that are happening in the nation, right? You know, this is an 8-year-old girl that is starving, living on like rice millet or whatever, and if it wasn't for the kindness of Tekking101 taking her in, you know, she might have just died on the streets, as plenty of other orphans have over the years, right? And so it's very appropriate that we began the arc with Otama's story explaining to Luffy, and then we're ending it here also with, like, you know, coming full circle of, like, Otama realizing that the future is bright, it's hopeful, everything will be okay from now on. Her parents are still dead, nothing they can do. They can't really unring that bell, but she'll be, you know, in good hands for the rest of her life. You know, she'll have enough food and water to drink and everything like that. So a very heartwarming scene with Nami and Otama. Anyway, we continue the speech. He's like, you know, Orochi and Kaido, the menace that they represented, are gone for good. I've met powerful and passionate friends on my journey, and together the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance. That was the name we went with. I know it's a mouthful, but, you know, that's what we're going with, okay? We raided Onigashima, and we defeated Kaido and Orochi, and the Beast Pirates. The monsters have been, you know, vanquished at this point. And then we have a scene with Momonosuke still in silhouette, raising a sword, raising a katana to the sky. And we also have a scene with Kid there, and Kid is just like, our alliance, you know, because Momo is sort of taking the credit for establishing the alliance, and Kid is like, wait a second. It's like, and then you can imagine maybe if Law's there, he doesn't do this, but Law is like, just shut up, Eustace, okay? Let him have this, okay? This is a big deal, right? You're witnessing something monumental right now, okay? So we see everybody there, everyone's like crying in the Flower Capital now, like bowing, because they finally understand what this means. They know who this is, and they know what's gonna happen next. We see Beppo and Law there, like Law's just chilling out, just resting, and Beppo is like on top of him. We see Carrot, and this is just a little relevant thing. The speech that Momo is giving over the loudspeaker, it's like, you know, we will never forget the heroes who paved the way to make this possible. And then we see a scene of Carrot. It's probably just coincidence how the speech actually lined up in the, you know, characters there, but I'm just saying, Carrot is a hero too. Maybe she'll journey with the Straw Hats. Yeah, it's probably not gonna happen, but it's okay, it's alright, we got Yamato. I'm not going to, you know, stretch it even further than that, okay? But yeah, it's just something I noticed. We see Otoko there. Otoko is with Tenguyama. And we also see a scene that's funny because after that big speech, so, Momonosuke comes out and he's just like, it's like, oh, free drinking water for all, and everyone will be free from now on, and freedom and free. And then he's like, I met great friends that guided me on my journey. Kinemon, I'm nervous, what else do I say? And, Kinemon just kind of looks at Momonosuke and it's just like, well, this translation's like, fake it till you make it, right? And Momonosuke's like, I was like, hey, you did pretty good. Momonosuke, you already have the crowd. The most important part of giving a speech is the opening, at least in my opinion, okay? Because when you give a speech, all right, let me tell you a story really quick, okay? A couple of months ago, I was the best man at my friend's wedding, okay? I have to give a best man speech. I'm really good at talking in front of a camera, not so much in front of a crowd of 200 people, so I was understandably nervous, okay? I had a speech, a little bit prepared, I ran it by a few people, they seemed to like it, but I wasn't like 100% confident I was gonna be able to do this. So at the wedding ceremony, as we're all walking out, the shoes we had to wear sucked. So I'm walking into the altar to begin the ceremony, like the very beginning of it, and I almost trip and fall. I'm walking out, very dramatic, very quiet in the church, and I do that, basically, okay? And everybody in the church is like, oh, and some people laughed, it's fine, whatever. But I didn't fall, I caught myself, and I was like, okay, whatever. And then, so the wedding ceremony goes off without a hitch, everything is good, I don't drop the rings, so that's good. We get to the reception, and as soon as the reception starts, it's like I walk into the reception hall, and it's like, okay, the first dance, that's nice, can I get a chance to sit down? No, it's like the MC gets on the freaking mic, and he's just like, Matthew, Crawford, please report to the stage, and I'm like, oh, crap, so I go up to the stage, and I was able to incorporate, I ad-libbed a bit, and I was like, hi, my name's Matt, I'm the best man. If you don't remember, I was the guy that almost wiped out at the beginning of the wedding ceremony. Boom! Whole reception hall laughed, and at that moment, I immediately calmed down, because I'm like, I got him, you know what I mean? I got him at that point. So, Momonosuke, you already, the dramatic effect of the smoke and then the scabbards and then they're all wearing epic clothing and they're all, bowing before you. And then you open the speech with, my father was Kozuki Oden! And he's like, how you're gonna change the nation and abolish slavery, and more importantly, Kaido and Orochi have been defeated. I think that's the main focus of this seminar. You can literally just, completely fumble the rest of this speech. I think you'll be okay at this point. Everybody's so busy crying and cheering that they probably can't even hear you, right? So you could completely mess this up. You could be like, those are the heroes that saved all of Wano. I like jelly beans! Oh, crap, why did I say that? It's like, yes, Momonosuke, we love jelly beans too! We're all part of one family! It could literally be something like that. They would be fine. So, we now have a moment where Momonosuke, he kind of calms down a bit, takes a deep breath, and he's just like, my father has given me my name. It means second to none. I swear to live up to restoring this country to the paradise it once was, and I will allow you to lend me your strength. I have transcended the last 20 years, and from this moment, I will be the one to lead Wano. Me, Kozuki Momonosuke, and then boom! Epic dramatic double-page spread. We see Momonosuke as an adult wearing very awesome kimonos, like clothing or yukata. I'm not really sure if it's a yukata or a kimono, whatever. It has the Kozuki crest on it, like the swan, and it also has the Kozuki, like the moons, the crescent moons on like the cape over him. He has Ame no Habakiri in his waist. I'm assuming Tekking101 brought it to the festival. I'm assuming that's where he got it from. That's what I mean, like they had to plan this, okay? They had to plan this shit, all right? Before they left to go to Onigashima, they had to get together with everybody. The Scabbards, Momo, Hiyori, Denjiro, Tekking101, they all got together and they're like, okay, provided that we all don't die in this war, here's how this is gonna shake down, right? Tekking101, you bring the sword to the Flower Festival, make sure you have it, we're gonna arrive, Kinemon's gonna use his clothing jutsu to give everybody badass outfits, and then you're gonna, give Ame no Habakiri to Momo, but they didn't plan on him being an adult at this point, because that was something that they came up with, that's something that, Momo decided halfway through the battle, but whatever, it worked out, I'm not complaining, okay? So everybody's crying now, even the Scabbards. Nekomamushi is crying, Kawamatsu's crying. This is, you gotta imagine, this is literally, and I love the fact that Oda focused on specifically the members that had not, that did not time travel. Okay, so we focus on Nekomamushi, we focus on Kawamatsu, Hiyori, and Denjiro. Kinemon is crying as well, but it's more important to, like, Denjiro and everybody, because they had to slog through 20 years of this bullshit, right? Kinemon, at the end of the day, Odin only died like 6 months ago from their perspective. Okay, now that's still a fresh wound and it was still time, but like 20 years versus like 6 months, you know what I mean? Like it's a completely different freaking story here. So Denjiro and Hiyori and Kawamatsu was sitting in that crappy prison cell in Udon eating poison fish for the last like 13 years, just waiting for this day to happen, So it's finally here. So the impact, the weight of this moment, I don't think I can express it in words, okay? It's just like, this is the light at the end of the tunnel that they all probably doubted many times. Even Denjiro and Hiyori, who believed in Toki and believed in her prophecy, they probably had plenty of times, plenty of days where they doubted that they would ever see the end of the end of the tunnel. Or not even that much, they might not even, like, they might die before they even make it to there, okay? But they're here, they did it. So, Momonosuke looks pretty epic, by the way. He looks a lot like Odin, not quite as, like, I mean, he looks like Odin and Toki's son, right? I mean, like, yeah, he doesn't have as many, like, distinguishing features as Odin did. I think it's mostly just because he doesn't have Odin's sideburns, okay? But, he also has the flowing hair like Odin, but he doesn't have it, like, shaped like the dish on top of his head, like, which might actually happen. Who knows, maybe Momo will style it like that. But, yeah, he looks like Odin and Toki's child. He looks pretty epic, and he has the sword, and everyone's happy, everyone's dancing. Let's see here. We have scenes of the Straw Hats all watching the display. Sanji's lighting up a cigarette. Nami's cheering. Otama's there happy. Yamato's cheering. Frankie's there. The true Shogun has returned to Wano. My deepest apologies for the delay. I know you had to endure a long winter, okay? And now we cut over to the narrator. Now, narrator. Listen up here, narrator. I trusted you up until the moment where it was like, oh, Kaido wins. Actually, it was Luffy. I had to redact that. All right, so you're on thin ice, narrator. Let's see what you have to say here. Okay. Sakura petals dance in a future sky, where warriors can finally rest their blades. The man who will one day be known far and wide as the greatest leader, Momonosuke Kozuki. There's some other stuff in there too, but that was the basic premise. The narrator comes on to say that, like, Momonosuke, this was the day he became the Shogun, this was the day that everything changed in Wano, and Momonosuke would go on to be the greatest Shogun that Wano has ever known. Okay? Very similar to the line when the Straw Hat Grand Fleet was established. The narrator comes on and says, the Straw Hat Grand Fleet will go on to be part of they will make names for themselves individually, but then they will go on to be part of an event that will, transcend everything else up until this point. So basically Oda teasing us that, like, in this situation, though, I think the Grand Fleet, that is something we are going to see by the end of the story. This is something that's going to be, way further down the line. Like, One Piece is going going to end, probably the last chapter, we're going to get like an epilogue or maybe like an epilogue arc. For One Piece, I don't think like one epilogue chapter is really going to do it unless it was like 200 pages long or some shit, you know? I think we need a final like 10 chapter epilogue arc where we focus on like, okay, here's an entire chapter on Alabasta, like 10 years in the future or 20 years in the future. Here's an entire chapter on, you know, what's going on with all the warlords, you know, 10, 20 years in the future. And then a whole chapter to see what's going on with Momo, you know what I mean? Like in Wano and stuff. I think that's the way it needs to be. But yeah, that's something that's like just assuring us that the battle was won for good. Momo is now the shogun. Him and Hiyori hug. Hiyori has like the face that she made earlier in the arc, and they hug, and they're happy, and everything seems good. You know, the Sakura petals dance in the flower capital, and then the last scene is they all turn and they walk into the palace together. All of the, you know, Momonosuke at the lead, and then flanked by his scabbards, who will also serve as his, you know, advisors, I'm assuming. Denjiro needs to be his main advisor, though. Probably Denjiro and Kinemon, because the issue still stands. It even says in the narration, a man 8 years of age, you know, because of, you know, the time effects. So he still has no idea how to properly run a nation, right, in terms of, like, politics and crap, like in economics. He doesn't know anything about economics. He's, you know, he's a kid. So, you know, Denjiro and Kinemon will bring him up to speed. There's still a lot of stuff he needs to learn, but I'm gonna trust you, narrator, that, you know, he will be the greatest shogun of all time. Yeah. All right, so that's the chapter, and more beautiful than any of that stuff, no break next week. Yeah, okay, no break next week, so that's great. I don't know where we're gonna go from here. You know, this is like the immediate aftermath of the battle, so I feel like in the next chapter, considering, well, we could go two directions with it, at least I think. Because this was such a happy ending here, we're now going to flip to the opposite side of that to see what the government is up to, what's going to happen with that, because the fleet is still outside Wano. I don't think they left. They're still there. While Momo is giving this big epic speech, he does not mention to the people, like, by the way, there's also a massive government fleet right outside this island. Also a giant elephant. Like, okay, Momonosuke, we were with you for a while, and then you kind of lost us there. It's like, it's okay, we got this. And then they just walk back into the castle. So that's still an issue. I think we're going to go cut over to them to see what's going on with the government and the cipher pool after this. Another thing that we could do is we could always cut to, like, you know, Luffy and Zoro are going to be out of it for probably several days, given the injuries that they suffered, right? So we could cut to, like, 2 days in the future where they finally wake up. And it's like, okay, and now we're going to, like, retrace our steps to, like, what happened in the last 2 days? And it's like, all right, it starts with Momonosuke's speech, and then this is what happened, and then this is what happened, and then this is what happened, and then, you know, catch you up to speed. That's, you know, maybe that's how it's going to go. I don't know. But no breaks, so that's good. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Tekking101 signing out. Go watch that new Panic at the Disco music video. It's a good one.